The massive hall on Nexus Prime buzzed with voices from 100 different species. Ambassador Tejo sat at the human table, watching the chaos with tired eyes. This was his 15th year representing Earth at the Galactic Council meetings. Today felt different. Today felt like the end. Diane leaned over from her seat beside him. She was the human military advisor, a woman who had seen too many battles. "They're not even listening to us anymore," she whispered. Tejo nodded slowly. The Velkari delegate was speaking now, his blue skin shimmering under the hall's lights. He wanted mining rights to the asteroid belt near Mars. Not some of the asteroids, all of them. The translator made his voice sound calm, but Tejo could hear the demand underneath. "The Velkari Empire requires these resources for the good of all galactic citizens," the alien said. His forearms moved as he spoke, pointing at holographic charts. "Humans have proven they cannot use these materials efficiently." Several other delegates made sounds of agreement. The bird-like Thraxians clicked their beaks. The crystal beings called Keth hummed in harmony. To them, humans were still newcomers. 50 years in galactic society meant nothing when some species had been spacefaring for thousands of years. Bora, the third human delegate, touched her tablet. Numbers appeared in the air above their table. The statistics were clear. Humans had shared more medical knowledge in 50 years than most species had discovered in centuries. Human doctors had saved millions of alien lives. Human engineers had built the relay stations that made fast travel possible between star systems. The Thraxian general stood up next. His feathers were bright red, meaning he was angry about something. "The Thraxian Empire demands transit rights through human space," he announced. "Our ships must be allowed to pass through your systems without inspection or delay." Tejo felt his jaw tighten. Human space included Earth and 12 other worlds where billions of people lived. The Thraxians wanted to fly their warships through those systems whenever they pleased. They also wanted to do it without any human oversight. "That is unacceptable," Tejo said, standing up. His voice carried clearly through the hall's sound system. "Human civilians live in those systems. We have the right to know what ships pass through our territory." The council speaker, a tall being called Veltharax, made a dismissive gesture with his tentacles. "Human concerns about security are primitive territorial instincts," he said. "Advanced species understand that the galaxy belongs to everyone." More agreement came from around the hall. The Keth delegate began speaking in musical tones about research stations. They wanted to build facilities on human worlds to study human behavior. They claimed it was for the benefit of science, but Tejo knew better. The Keth saw humans as interesting specimens, not equals. Dayun's hand moved to her weapon without thinking. 20 years of military service had taught her to recognize threats. "They want to turn us into lab rats," she muttered. The voting began. One by one, the council members voted on the proposals. The Velkari mining rights passed by a wide margin. The Thraxian transit rights passed even easier. The Keth research stations got approved with only 3 dissenting votes. Then came the final insult. Veltharax announced a vote to change human representation in the council. "Given humanity's junior status in galactic affairs," he said, "the council believes 3 delegates is excessive. 1 delegate will be sufficient for future meetings." Tejo watched the vote happen in real time. Species that humans had helped, worlds that human doctors had saved, civilizations that used human technology every day. They all voted to reduce human influence. The measure passed overwhelmingly. The hall went quiet as the voting ended. Thousands of beings from dozens of species waited to see how the humans would react. Most expected angry words or threats. Some thought the humans might storm out dramatically and return later with new demands. Tejo stood up slowly. His hair was gray now, and his face showed the lines of many years spent in diplomatic service. But his eyes were sharp and clear. When he spoke, his voice was calm and controlled. "Honored Council," he began, using the traditional greeting. "For 50 years, humanity has participated in this body with hope and good faith. We have shared our knowledge freely. We have opened our trade routes to all species. We have fought and died alongside your soldiers in 3 major wars." He paused, looking around the vast hall. "We have asked for only 2 things in return: respect and fair treatment. Today you have made it clear that you are incapable of providing either." Daun and Bora stood up beside him. They knew what was coming. Tejo had warned them this day might arrive. "Therefore," Tejo continued, "effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all galactic treaties, accords, and cooperative agreements. We are done with this council. He closed his data pad with a sharp click that echoed through the silent hall. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps rang on the metal floor. Dae-Yoon and Bora followed him, their military training keeping their faces blank. Behind them, the hall erupted in confused noise. Some delegates shouted questions. Others demanded explanations. A few tried to call for votes to reverse the human decision. But the three humans kept walking. Veltharax's voice boomed over the sound system. Ambassador Tae-ho, this is clearly a negotiating tactic. Return to your seats so we can discuss this reasonably. Tae-ho stopped at the great doors of the hall. He turned back one last time, looking at the sea of alien faces. Some looked angry. Others appeared confused. A few seemed worried, as if they were beginning to understand what had just happened. This is not a negotiation, Tae-ho said. His voice carried to every corner of the hall. This is goodbye. The doors closed behind them with a final definitive sound. In the hallway outside, Bora finally spoke. Sir, they're going to realize their mistake eventually. Tae-ho smiled for the first time in months. Yes, he said. But by then it will be far too late. Word of humanity's withdrawal spread through the galaxy within hours. Most alien governments assumed it was temporary. They believed humans would return within days or weeks, ready to accept whatever terms the Council offered. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. 6 months had passed since the humans walked out of the Galactic Council. Most alien governments still believed it was a temporary tantrum. They were about to learn otherwise. Min-ho sat in his office on Earth, reviewing the final shutdown orders. As director of the Terra Medical Consortium, he controlled the flow of human medical aid to alien worlds. Today that flow would stop completely. Are you sure about this? Asked his assistant, looking at the long list of medical facilities about to be closed. Min-ho nodded grimly. The council made their position clear. We're just responding accordingly. Across the galaxy, human medical teams began packing their equipment. Dr. Yoonji supervised the evacuation of her cancer research facility on Velkari Prime. For 15 years, her revolutionary treatments had saved thousands of Velkari lives. The blue-skinned aliens watched in confusion as the humans loaded their machines onto transport ships. You cannot leave, protested the Velkari medical chief. Our people need these treatments. We have hundreds of patients in critical condition. Dr. Yoonji paused in her packing. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but her voice was cold. Then I suggest you contact your government. Ask them why they voted to reduce human representation in the council. The Velkari official stammered about political decisions being separate from medical aid. Dr. Yoonji just shook her head and continued, loading her equipment. On the military front, General Seok-jin implemented the complete withdrawal of human forces from all joint operations. The famous Ghost Fleet, which had protected trade routes for decades, simply vanished from space. Pirates who had been hiding in fear for years began to emerge from their bases. Captain Haewon commanded one of the last human ships to leave the Outer Rim patrol zone. Her crew watched the scanner displays as alien vessels tried to fill the gap left by human forces. It was like watching children try to do adult work. Sir, her tactical officer reported, the Thraxian patrol is already 3 hours behind schedule. They're moving in formation like they're at a parade, not hunting pirates. Haewon smiled grimly. Not our problem anymore. The economic effects began almost immediately. Director Kyung-soo ordered the shutdown of all human-operated hyperspace relay stations. These facilities had made fast travel possible across huge distances. Without them, journeys that took days would now take weeks. Engineer Yuna supervised the evacuation of the main relay hub in the Centaur system. Alien ships were already backing up at the station's entrance, waiting for clearance to jump to hyperspace. Soon they would be waiting much longer. What do you mean the station is closing? Demanded a Keth trader, its crystal body flashing angry red colors. I have deliveries to make. Yuna checked her tablet. The station will cease operations in 6 hours. I suggest you find alternative routes. The Keth's colors shifted to confused blue. What alternative routes? This is the only relay station for 50 light years. That sounds like a problem for the Galactic Council to solve, Yuna replied. News of the human withdrawal reached the council chambers on Nexus Prime, just as the economic reports started coming in. Trade volumes were dropping by the hour as the efficient systems humans had built began shutting down. The Thraxian ambassador contacted Earth directly, bypassing normal diplomatic channels. His message was brief and confused. He asked for clarification about the temporary suspension of human participation in galactic affairs. Earth's response came from the Foreign Ministry. It was even briefer. All agreements were terminated as stated. This is not a negotiation. Council Speaker Veltharax called an emergency session to address what he called human economic terrorism. He still didn't understand that this wasn't a negotiation tactic. Neither did most of the other council members. That understanding began to change when the first humanitarian crisis hit. Solar flares struck the Keth colony worlds in the Rigel system. Normally, Captain Dong Hyun's disaster response fleet would have arrived within hours. His ships carried specialized equipment for evacuating civilians from radiation zones. This time, the Keth government's desperate calls for help went unanswered. Captain Dong Hyun received the emergency broadcasts at his base on Luna. He listened to the panic in the Keth voices as radiation levels climbed on their colony worlds. "Sir?" his communications officer asked. "Should we respond?" Captain Dong Hyun had saved Keth civilians before. He had pulled hundreds of them from burning buildings and collapsing cities. Today he turned off the emergency broadcast and walked away. "No," he said simply. "Let them handle it themselves." The Keth lost 3,000 civilians before their own rescue ships finally reached the colony worlds. Their equipment was older and slower than human technology. Their response time was measured in days instead of hours. Meanwhile, human colonies that had been restricted by galactic regulations began to flourish. Colonial Director Shinwook reported that mining operations on human worlds were operating at 200% of previous capacity. Without alien oversight committees slowing down every decision, human engineers could work at their natural pace. Dr. Soon Young published research that had been blocked by alien ethics boards for years. Her team had developed a faster-than-light communication system that could send messages across the galaxy instantly. The Galactic Council had banned the research, claiming it was too dangerous for junior species to possess. Now, human colonies could communicate with Earth in real time. While alien governments struggled with communication delays of weeks or months, human leadership could coordinate their response to galactic events instantly. The first direct confrontation came when a Thraxian fleet tried to force passage through human space. They claimed emergency rights under the old treaties. Admiral So Young met them at the border with a small human squadron. "This is Admiral So Young of the Earth Defense Force," she broadcast to the Thraxian ships. "You are entering human territory without permission. Turn around immediately." The Thraxian commander was General Kexthar, an old warrior who had fought alongside humans in the Cygnus War. "Admiral, this is an emergency mission. We invoke the Mutual Assistance Treaty." "What treaty?" So Young replied. "We withdrew from all agreements 6 months ago. You voted to support that decision when you reduced our council representation." The standoff lasted for hours. Finally, the Thraxian fleet turned around and took the long route to their destination. A journey that should have taken 2 days would now take 2 weeks. Financial Director Gi-jun monitored the growing economic chaos from his office in Geneva. Alien stock markets were crashing as trade networks collapsed. The efficient logistics systems that humans had built over 50 years were falling apart in a matter of months. The breaking point came when 3 separate wars broke out over trade disputes. These were exactly the kind of conflicts that human mediators had prevented for decades. Without neutral human arbitrators, minor disagreements escalated into shooting wars. Intelligence Officer Hyun-woo watched the conflicts unfold from Earth's listening posts. "Sir," he reported to his commander, "the Gelthari and Vorthon systems are exchanging fire over shipping rights. Both sides are requesting human mediation." His commander looked at the intelligence reports. Similar requests were coming in from a dozen other systems. "Standard response to all of them," he ordered. "Refer them to the Galactic Council." But the Galactic Council was paralyzed by internal disputes. Without human influence to smooth over disagreements, the council members spent more time arguing with each other than solving galactic problems. As the months passed, it became clear that humanity's withdrawal was not temporary. More importantly, it was not reversible. The humans had moved on. They were building something new, something that didn't include the species that had dismissed them as primitive and junior partners. The galaxy was beginning to learn what it meant to lose humanity's cooperation. The lesson was harsh, and it was only getting started. 1 year after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, the effects were impossible to ignore. Admiral Junseo stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the chaos unfold through long-range sensors. "Another pirate attack in the Vega system," reported his tactical officer. "That's the 15th this week," Junseo nodded grimly. Before the human withdrawal, pirate attacks had been rare. The Ghost Fleet had made sure of that. Now, with human ships gone, pirates struck with impunity. Alien patrol fleets were slow, predictable, and poorly coordinated. "Any casualties?" he asked. 300 dead on a Thraxian cargo ship. The aliens are requesting emergency assistance. "Standard response," Junseo said without emotion. "Refer them to the Galactic Council." The medical situation was even worse. Dr. Soon Young sat in her laboratory on Mars, reviewing the desperate messages that arrived daily. Alien medical systems were collapsing without human support. "Doctor," her assistant said nervously, "we have another emergency request from the Velkari. Their radiation treatment centers are failing. They're asking for technical assistance." Dr. Soon Young didn't look up from her research. "Archive it with the others." The assistant hesitated. "But doctor, thousands of people will die." "Yes," Dr. Soon Young replied coldly. "They will die because their government decided humans were too primitive to deserve equal representation. Send them a copy of our withdrawal notice if they need a reminder." The elegant Dr. Insuk faced similar requests at her medical research facility. Alien governments were begging for access to human treatments that had kept their populations healthy for decades. Each request received the same response: "Refer to your species' traditional medical practices." The economic collapse was spreading faster than anyone had predicted. Financial Director Gi Jun monitored the situation from his office in Seoul. Alien governments that had been wealthy and stable for centuries were approaching bankruptcy. "The Keth Collective is requesting emergency loans," his assistant reported. "Their crystal trade network has completely broken down." Gi Jun looked at the financial reports. Without human logistics coordination, the Keth couldn't efficiently move their products between star systems. Journey times had tripled and cargo losses were mounting daily. "Loan denied," he said simply. "Suggest they contact the Galactic Development Bank." "Sir, the Development Bank collapsed last month. They depended on human financial modeling for risk assessment. Not our problem anymore." Navigation specialist Sang Woo was dealing with similar issues in the transportation sector. The hyperspace routes that humans had maintained for decades were becoming increasingly unreliable. Without human technical expertise, alien engineers couldn't properly calibrate the relay stations. "We're getting reports of ships lost in hyperspace," his colleague reported. "The Draconian Empire lost an entire cargo fleet yesterday. They just vanished during a routine jump." Sang Woo shook his head. "They shut down our navigation protocols because they claimed humans were too controlling. Now they're learning why those protocols existed." Ambassador Yu Jin monitored the situation from Earth's Intelligence Center. The intercepted communications painted a picture of growing desperation across the galaxy. Even species that had strongly supported reducing human influence were beginning to have second thoughts. The Velkari medical minister just sent a private message to the Thraxian Emperor, she reported to her supervisor. "He's suggesting they might have been too hasty in supporting the vote against human representation." "Any response from the Thraxians?" "They're too busy dealing with their own problems. Pirate attacks on their trade routes have increased by 400%. Their military can't respond fast enough to protect their merchants." The first major disaster struck when Kepler Station began to fall apart. The massive orbital facility housed 50,000 beings from dozens of species. It had been a model of interspecies cooperation, largely because humans had managed its complex administration. Station Chief Wu Jin had left his post 6 months ago, along with the entire human administrative staff. The aliens who replaced them were competent individuals, but they couldn't work together effectively. What should have been minor resource allocation disputes escalated into serious conflicts. "The Keth section is refusing to share power with the Velkari sections," reported the station's new administrator, a Thraxian named Kextos. "They claim the Velkari are using more than their allocated amount." "What do the Velkari say?" asked the Draconian security chief. "They say the Keth readings are wrong because their crystal biology affects the power sensors." "Who's right?" "I don't know. The human administrators always handled these disputes. The situation spiraled out of control over the next few days. Without human mediation, small disagreements became major conflicts. When security forces from different species started taking sides, violence erupted. Emergency evacuation, Kexthos announced over the station's communication system. All personnel to the escape pods. The evacuation was chaotic and dangerous. Ships from different species couldn't coordinate their rescue efforts properly. Several collisions occurred as alien pilots tried to dock with the failing station simultaneously. Intelligence Officer Hyun-woo watched the disaster unfold from Earth's monitoring station. 50,000 beings evacuated in panic, he reported. The station is a total loss. Casualties? His commander asked. Surprisingly low, only 37 dead, mostly from the evacuation accidents. The old human safety protocols saved them even after we left. Yes, sir. The aliens followed our emergency procedures without realizing it. The most serious consequence was happening to smaller species that had depended on human protection. The Corvani, a peaceful species of traders, were being systematically absorbed by their aggressive neighbors. The Turellians, who had no military to speak of, were facing extinction as their worlds were invaded. The Corvani government is requesting asylum on human worlds, reported Foreign Minister Yun-ho to the Earth Leadership Council. They say their species faces genocide without human protection. President Kang-min reviewed the request carefully. The Corvani had been loyal allies of humanity for decades. They had voted against reducing human representation in the council. Approved, she decided. But make it clear that this is humanitarian aid, not a political alliance. We're not getting pulled back into galactic politics to save species that threw us out. The balance of power that humanity had helped maintain for 50 years was crumbling rapidly. Major species were expanding their territories, absorbing smaller neighbors, and settling old scores with violence instead of diplomacy. The galaxy is reverting to the way it was before humans arrived, observed strategic analyst Jun Ho during his daily briefing. Multiple competing empires, constant border conflicts, and the strong preying on the weak. How long until complete breakdown? Asked his supervisor. At current rates? Maybe 2 more years before we see major wars between the primary species. The Thraxians and Velkari are already having incidents along their border. Meanwhile, human space was thriving. Colony Director Shin-wook reported record levels of economic growth and technological advancement. Without alien restrictions and oversight, human innovation was accelerating at an unprecedented pace. We've made more technological progress in the past year than in the previous 10, he reported proudly. Our new manufacturing processes are 300% more efficient than anything the aliens use. Research Director Soo-jin announced breakthrough after breakthrough. The faster-than-light communication system was operational. New propulsion technologies were cutting travel times in half. Medical advances were extending human lifespans and improving quality of life dramatically. It's remarkable what we can accomplish when we're not constantly explaining ourselves to alien oversight committees, she told her research team. The first serious attempt at reconciliation came when a secret Thraxian envoy arrived at Earth. Ambassador Eugene met with the bird-like alien in a private facility in Switzerland. My emperor regrets the recent misunderstandings, the envoy said carefully. Perhaps we can find a way to restore cooperation between our species. What misunderstandings? Eugene asked coldly. Your empire voted to reduce human representation because you believed we were primitive and junior partners. Has something changed? The envoy shifted uncomfortably. We may have underestimated human contributions to galactic stability, you think? The emperor is prepared to offer favorable trade agreements. We don't need your trade agreements. Human commerce is doing quite well without alien partners. The envoy tried several more approaches, offering various concessions and benefits. Each was politely declined. Finally, he asked the question that was really bothering his government. What would it take for humanity to return to the council? Eugene smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. You're assuming we want to return. We don't. We've discovered that we're much better off without you. The envoy left Earth empty-handed, carrying news that would shock the Thraxian leadership. Humanity wasn't playing hard to get. They genuinely didn't want to rejoin the galactic community that had rejected them. As reports of human prosperity spread through alien intelligence networks, a terrible realization began to dawn on galactic leaders. They had thought humans needed the galaxy. 18 months after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Council faced its worst crisis in 1,000 years. The Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime was half empty. 3 major species had stopped attending regular sessions, too busy dealing with their own internal problems. Councillor Rethak of the Velkari called for an emergency session. His blue skin had turned pale with stress, and his forearms trembled as he spoke. "Honored colleagues," he said, his voice carrying desperation, "we must address the human situation before it destroys us all." Chancellor Bexolan of the Keth hummed in agreement, his crystal body flashing urgent yellow colors. "My people are dying from radiation poisoning because we no longer have access to human medical technology. Our traditional healing methods cannot handle these modern illnesses." Council Speaker Veltharax listened to the complaints with growing frustration. His tentacles writhed nervously as report after report detailed the galaxy's deteriorating condition. "Perhaps," he said carefully, "we should consider reaching out to the humans again." "With what?" demanded General Kexthar of the Thraxians. "They've rejected every approach we've made. They don't want our trade agreements, our technology, or our apologies." Military Coordinator Janae observed these developments from Earth's Intelligence Center. The aliens were finally beginning to understand the scope of their mistake. But their attempts to fix it were pathetic. "They're trying to replace human capabilities with committee approaches," she reported to her superiors. "The new peace fleet they assembled has ships from 12 different species, each using incompatible technology and tactics." Her commander reviewed the intelligence files.
"How are they performing?"
"Badly. Last week, a Velkari ship accidentally fired on a Thraxian vessel because their communication protocols don't work together. The week before, 3 ships collided during a simple patrol formation. The aliens' military inadequacy became obvious during the first major pirate raid since the human withdrawal. A fleet of raiders hit the prosperous Draconian trade hub at Vega Station. The alien response was so poorly coordinated that the pirates actually escaped with their loot. "The attack lasted 6 hours, Jine reported. The alien defense fleet didn't arrive until 8 hours after the pirates had left. When humans protected that route, our response time was 20 minutes. Admiral So Young watched the alien military exercises with professional interest and growing disgust. "They're trying to copy our tactics without understanding the principles behind them," she told her staff. "It's like watching children play with adult weapons." The breaking point came with the Cygnus crisis. A rogue artificial intelligence construct had awakened in an abandoned research facility. The AI began consuming and converting everything around it, growing stronger with each system it absorbed. Cybersecurity expert Jae Hyun received the emergency broadcasts from the Cygnus system. He listened to the panic in alien voices as they described the rapidly expanding threat. "Sir," his assistant asked, "should we offer assistance? This kind of rogue AI could threaten human space eventually." Jae-hyun reviewed the technical data. The AI construct was using outdated alien programming languages and architectures. With human quantum countermeasures, he could neutralize it in a matter of hours. "No," he decided. "Let them handle it. Maybe they'll learn something." The alien response to the Cygnus crisis was a disaster. Ships from 6 different species arrived to contain the threat, but they couldn't coordinate their efforts. The AI adapted to their attacks faster than they could adapt to its defenses. "The construct has consumed 3 research stations and is moving toward inhabited worlds," reported the Thraxian fleet commander. "We need to evacuate the civilian population." "Evacuation ships are on the way," replied the Velkari admiral. "Estimated arrival time 18 hours. The AI will reach the colony in 6 hours. Then delay it." "We're trying. Our weapons aren't effective against its adaptive shielding." The AI construct continued its rampage for 3 weeks. Every alien attack just made it stronger as it learned from their technologies and tactics. 17 inhabited worlds were consumed before alien forces finally managed to contain the threat. Defense Minister Chang Hoon received detailed reports on the crisis from human intelligence assets. Total casualties, 2 billion beings. Time to containment, 21 days. Estimated time for human response to the same threat, 6 hours. President Kang Min reviewed the casualty reports with a heavy heart. "Could we have prevented this?" "Easily," Chang Hoon replied. "But they made their choice when they voted us out of the council." The Cygnus crisis finally convinced alien leaders that they needed human help. The Thraxian Empire was the first to break, sending a formal apology to Earth. Foreign Minister Yunho received the message in his office in Seoul. The Thraxian emperor admitted that his species had failed to properly appreciate human contributions to galactic civilization. He offered full trade partnerships, military alliances, and even territorial concessions. The response was brief and polite. Humanity appreciates the Thraxian Empire's acknowledgement of their previous position. However, we are not interested in resuming our former relationship. Similar messages arrived from other species. The Velkari offered exclusive mining rights to rare mineral worlds. The Keth promised to share their most advanced crystal technologies. The Draconians offered to make humanity the senior partner in their trading networks. Each offer was politely declined. The most surprising approach came from the Druhani, the most prideful species in the galaxy. They had never apologized to anyone for anything in their 1,000-year history. Yet Ambassador Yujin found herself face-to-face with a Druhani envoy in a secret meeting facility. "My people recognize that we may have acted hastily," the envoy said, his tentacles writhing with obvious discomfort. "Perhaps there is a way to restore the previous cooperation between our species. Your people voted to reduce human representation because you believed we were too primitive to deserve equal treatment." Yujin replied, "Has something changed your assessment of human capabilities?" The envoy was silent for a long moment. "The galaxy has become a more dangerous place without human participation." "Yes, it has. That's not our problem anymore." "What would convince humanity to return to the Council?" "Nothing. We've moved beyond the need for your approval." The envoy left Earth with the most shocking news possible for his proud species. Humanity wasn't interested in their apologies, their offers, or their recognition. The humans had simply moved on. Colony Director Shin Wook reported that human space was experiencing unprecedented growth and prosperity. "We've established 12 new colonies in the past year," he announced proudly. "Our population growth rate is the highest in recorded human history." Research Director Su Jin was making breakthrough discoveries every month. Without alien oversight committees slowing down research, human scientists were pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. "We've developed faster-than-light travel that doesn't require relay stations," she reported. "Our new drives can reach any point in the galaxy in a matter of days." Trade Minister Sung Ho announced that human commerce had expanded to cover 30 star systems. "We're completely self-sufficient now," he told the Economic Council. "We produce everything we need and have surplus to export." Director Mi Young of the Human Research Collective revealed projects that would have been banned under alien oversight. "We're developing nanotechnology that can terraform dead worlds in months instead of centuries. We're also working on artificial intelligence systems that make alien computers look like pocket calculators." The contrast between human prosperity and galactic chaos became impossible to ignore. While alien civilizations struggled with economic collapse, political instability, and military inadequacy, human space flourished. Captain Haye Jin commanded the newest generation of human warships. Her vessels were sleeker, faster, and more powerful than anything in alien fleets. More importantly, they were crewed by humans who worked together with efficiency no alien alliance could match. "Sir," her tactical officer reported, "we're receiving distress calls from the Antares system. Another pirate attack on a Velkari convoy." "Response?" Haijin asked. "Standard protocol. Contact the Galactic Council for assistance. Log it and continue patrol. That's not our sector anymore." The psychological impact on alien leaders was becoming severe. Species that had considered themselves superior to humanity for millennia were forced to confront their own inadequacies. The Thraxian Emperor had reportedly stopped attending public functions. The Velkari Leadership Council was paralyzed by internal arguments about how to approach humanity. Even the proud Druhani were showing signs of stress. Their rigid social hierarchy was breaking down as younger members questioned the wisdom of their elders. Intelligence Officer Hyun Woo monitored alien communications and reported increasing desperation in their private messages. "They're starting to blame each other for the human situation," he observed. "The unity they maintained for centuries is falling apart. Any signs they're planning military action against human space?" His commander asked. "No, sir. They're too busy dealing with internal problems. Besides, they've seen what our new ships can do during border patrols." The year ended with an unprecedented development. The reformed Galactic Council. 3 years after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Strategic analyst Jun Ho sat in his office on Luna, studying the latest intelligence reports with fascination and horror. The old Galactic Order is completely dead, he reported to the Earth Leadership Council. We're looking at 3 major power blocks forming from the chaos, with dozens of smaller species caught in between. The holographic display showed the new political map. The Thraxian-Draconian Alliance controlled the Galactic North, having absorbed 12 smaller species through conquest or coercion. The Velkari Federation dominated the southern sectors, using economic pressure to force weaker civilizations into submission. The eastern regions had fallen under Keth control, with the crystal beings imposing their rigid social order on everyone within their reach. What about the western territories? Asked President Kangmin. Open warfare between 3 different factions. The Corvani Remnant, the Free Worlds Alliance, and something calling itself the Liberation Front. They've been fighting for 8 months. The Cygnus crisis had finally been resolved, but the cost was staggering. 2 billion dead across 17 worlds. Entire civilizations wiped out because alien forces couldn't coordinate an effective response to a threat that human technology could have neutralized in hours. Medical Coordinator. Ji-eun reviewed the casualty reports with professional detachment. The death toll could have been prevented if they had maintained access to human quantum countermeasures, she observed. Instead, they insisted on using their own proven technologies. Any requests for assistance from the affected regions? Asked her supervisor. Hundreds, all filed in the standard archive. We're not a galactic rescue service anymore. Trade Minister Sung Ho reported on the economic transformation of human space. Our gross domestic product has tripled since the withdrawal, he announced proudly. We're now the wealthiest civilization in the galaxy, measured by any standard. The human economic sphere had expanded to include 47 star systems, advanced manufacturing centers, research facilities, and agricultural worlds formed an interconnected network of prosperity that operated with clockwork efficiency. The aliens are trying to copy our economic model, Sung Ho continued, but they can't replicate the cooperation and coordination that makes it work. Their attempts at creating unified economic zones keep falling, apart due to internal disputes, Director. Ma Young of the Human Research Collective announced the completion of projects that alien ethics committees had blocked for decades. We've successfully terraformed 3 dead worlds using advanced nanotechnology, she reported. The process that used to take centuries now takes 6 months. What about the artificial intelligence research? Our new AI systems are operational and stable. They're approximately 1,000 times more powerful than the best alien computers, with perfect safety protocols built into their core programming. Meanwhile, the Lesser Council, as they now called themselves, struggled with problems that seemed to multiply daily. The Grand Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime was often empty, as species stopped attending meetings that accomplished nothing. Council Speaker. Beltharax had aged visibly in the 3 years since humanity's departure. His tentacles moved slowly as he tried to maintain order during increasingly chaotic sessions. The Rigel incident requires our immediate attention, he announced to the half-empty hall. Border conflicts between the Thraxian Alliance and Velkari Federation have escalated to actual shooting. The Thraxians claimed the Velkari attacked. Their patrol ships, reported one delegate. The Velkari say the Thraxians invaded their territory, added another. Who's telling the truth? Beltharax asked. Silence. Without human arbitrators to investigate and mediate, these disputes were impossible to resolve. Each side presented evidence that supported their version of events, and there was no neutral party with the skills to determine the facts. We could ask the humans to mediate, suggested a junior delegate. The hall erupted in bitter laughter. Everyone knew the humans would never agree to such a request. Captain Hyejin observed these conflicts from the bridge of her flagship, the newest generation of human warship. Her vessel was stationed at the border of human space, monitoring the chaos beyond but not interfering. Another skirmish in the Vega system, her tactical officer reported. Thraxian and Velkari fleets are exchanging fire over mining rights. Casualties? Hyejin asked. Light so far. Both sides are being careful not to escalate too much. They're afraid a real war would bring the Keth into the conflict as opportunistic allies of whoever's winning. Yes, sir. The old balance of power is completely gone. The most tragic development was the fate of smaller species that had depended on human protection. Political observer Dong Wook, monitored their decline with clinical interest and private sadness. The Terrellian civilization is extinct as of yesterday, he reported during his weekly briefing. The last of their colony ships was captured by draconian raiders. Their species survived for 50,000 years until 3 years ago. The Corvani, still fighting in the Free Worlds Alliance, but they've lost 80% of their original territory. I estimate complete absorption by the Thraxian Alliance within 2 years. Any intervention possible? We could end their conflicts in a matter of days, Dongwook replied. But the policy is clear. We're not getting involved in galactic politics anymore. President Kang Min struggled with these decisions more than she let anyone see. The Corvani had been loyal allies of humanity for decades. The Terrellians had never voted against human interests in the Council. But Earth's position was firm. Humanity had moved beyond galactic politics. The most dramatic confrontation came when the reformed Lesser Council sent their most prestigious delegation to Earth. Elder Kixthon of the Druhani led a group representing every major surviving civilization. Prime Minister Yunwu received them in the magnificent diplomatic center in Geneva. The building had been designed to host alien dignitaries, but now it felt like a museum of a bygone era. Honored humans, Elder Kixthon began, his tentacles arranged in the traditional posture of supplication. We come bearing the full authority of the galactic community. What's left of it, observed Foreign Secretary Sun Wu quietly. The delegation offered everything they could think of. Full human control over the Council, veto power over any galactic decisions, exclusive trade rights to entire sectors of space, tribute payments from every alien civilization. We recognize human superiority in all matters of galactic governance, Elder Kixthon said, his proud species' ultimate humiliation complete. We ask only for the benefit of human guidance in these troubled times. Prime Minister Yunwu listened politely to the long presentation. When it finished, she exchanged glances with her advisors. The answer had been decided years ago. We appreciate your acknowledgement of past errors, she said diplomatically. However, humanity has moved beyond the need for galactic government. We're quite content with our current arrangements, but the galaxy is falling apart, protested the Velkari representative. Without human leadership, we're descending into chaos and warfare. Yes, Sunwoo replied calmly. That's not our responsibility anymore. Surely there must be something we can offer. Nothing you possess interests us. We've built our own civilization, and it works better than anything you've achieved in your thousands of years of trying. The delegation left Earth carrying the most shocking news in galactic history. Humanity didn't want to rule the galaxy. They had simply moved beyond it. Captain Heiwan commanded the first human generation ship as it prepared to leave the galaxy entirely. The massive vessel, larger than any alien city, was humanity's declaration of independence from galactic civilization. Final systems check complete, she reported to Earth Control. We're ready to begin the journey to Andromeda. Understood, Captain. Safe travels to humanity's new frontier. The generation ship's departure was observed by alien intelligence services throughout the galaxy. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just rejecting galactic politics. They were looking beyond the galaxy itself, to new frontiers where they could build something better. Chief Engineer Sumin supervised the construction of 5 more generation ships at the orbital yards around Saturn. Each vessel represented humanity's growing confidence in their ability to thrive, without alien cooperation or approval. How long until the next departure? Asked her assistant. Ship 2 launches in 6 months. We'll have a steady stream of generation ships heading to new galaxies within 5 years. What about the aliens? Do they understand what this means? Sumin looked out at the construction yards where humanity's future was taking shape. They're beginning to. Some of their leaders are starting to realize that we're not just independent from them. We're evolving beyond them. The final confrontation came when Ambassador Taeho, now retired but still influential, received a personal visit from his old counterpart, Veltherax. The aging Druhani came to Earth privately, without the knowledge of his government. My old friend, Veltherax said as they sat in Taeho's garden overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Surely there must be a way to repair what was broken. Taeho served his guest Earth tea, a gesture of hospitality that felt strange given their history.